Okay, so the first bone that I'm going to talk about are the bones of the skull, which are right there. There is the frontal bone. Then we have the temporal bone. Then we have the nasal bone. Then we have the maxilla right there. And then there is the mandible at the bottom, which is the jaw. Then we have the zygomatic bone, which is right there. And let me see what else. Oh yeah, and the ethmoid bone. Okay. All right, and then the next bone is the mandible. Let me see. Right there, the mandible. And then we have the part up here, which is the angle of the mandible. Actually, the angle part is down here. That's the angle. The part up there above the angle is the ramus. And then below it is the body. And then the little hole in the mandible is known as the mental foramen. And then there is the condyle process. And then there is the cornoid process. Okay, and that is the mandible. The next part is the vertebral column. We have the atlas and the axis, which are also known as C1 and C2. They are part of the cervical vertebrae. Then after that, there's the thoracic vertebrae. Then there is the lumbar, excuse me. Then the sacrum. And the coccyx. As you can see right there. And then the next one I'm going to do is of the lumbar vertebrae. And then this part right there is the body. Then we have the spinous process. And then there is right there, the spinous process. And then of course there's the body, which is right there, and the lateral view. And then there is also the transverse process. And there you see it, the parts of the lumbar. The next I'm going to do is the rib cage. Right in the middle of the rib cage, of course, is known as the sternum. Then above the sternum is called the manubrium. I think it's called the manubrium. It sits right there. Okay, and then ribs 1 through 7 right here are known as the true ribs because they attach to the sternum. And then 8 through 12 are known as the false ribs. And then 11 and 12 on the back are known as the floating ribs. Right there. And then those are the parts of the rib cage. Those are the main parts. And so yeah, then the next part I'm going to talk about is the clavicle. There is the clavicle down there. Okay, and the clavicle has the sternal end, and the acromial end, I believe. Sorry if I butchered that. Okay. Right there actually. And then it has a coronoid tubercle, which is the little part right down there in the superior view. And that is called the coronoid tubercle. Okay. Then the next part I'm going to talk about are the fingers, all the bones in the hands. Right there. We have the phalanges, which are known as the fingers. Right there, the phalanges, and then we have the metacarpal bones. And then, of course, in the wrist are the carpal bones. Okay. And then, of course, the distal, the middle, and the proximal of each fingers. And then I'm going to do the bones of the foot, which is right there, which is below it. You see it? And then, kind of similar to the bones of the hand, there are the phalanges. There are the metatarsals, which are this part right there, the middle part, I guess you could say. And then the tarsals. There. Okay. And then let me go back to I'm going to do the femur next. So the femur has the very, very, very top part, which is the fovea capitis. And then it has the head, which is right below it. and every head has a neck. Then next is the greater trochanter, which is very at the top right there. And then there's also a lesser trochanter. And there's a little line that goes right there from the greater to the lesser, which is known as the intertrochanteric line. And then it's right there. Intertrochanter line. And then of course there's the body, excuse me, the shaft of the femur. And then at the bottom we have the lateral epicondyle, the lateral, and then the medial, which is the other side, the medial epicondyle. And then there is the patella surface, which is at the bottom. Okay, and then that brings me to the patella right there. And the patella has, of course, the base. Then at the bottom is known as the apex of the patella. And then on the posterior view, there is the articular faucets. Okay, and thank you.